On the set? Go? Great. Well, aloha, everyone. I'm glad you're here, and welcome to Way of the Reflector. and here's the deal, guys. Is I don't have a clue. This is going to be one of the funniest lectures I ever do because you know I only talk about things that I can get to and verify in my body. I've been very upfront with everyone and honest about, you're not going to get anything from me as any sort of energetic truth until I can verify it in my body. So today is, well, all bets are off because there's been so little that I've been able to verify with these people in their body. But I want to just kind of give you a perspective because, reflectors are, always put up as these, mystical moon beings and, awe and future and all of this stuff. But I mean, for me to really understand what the reflector is, it's helped me to always go back to like prehistoric man, and so that's really, I want you to start to try to get a balance between, what the potential of the reflector could be, or maybe even in this life. I mean, it's not, I just don't know many of them, and certainly not enough for enough time to talk to you experientially about them. But that to really see that they were much, before, even before the seven-centered being, when we were five-centered beings, the prehistoric man that lived in much more in tune with nature and so forth, nature and the cosmos, so to speak. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of a yin yang perspective here, guys, because I mean, if there's any type that's unverified for me, I mean, this is it. Slippery little bastards they are. I can't get to them. Anyway, so no, the slide. Hopefully, everyone's getting sick of. At least in the class, is that we really are flying through space. I mean, it is astrophysics, guys. We are flying through space. We're in this energetic bubble. We have some illusion that we're separate from all the other things, and we're not. And so, guys, the more and more you can get your heads around, you're not in charge, you're not in control, and basically, it's not your life, it's the life. I mean, just that. If I could just get reflectors on board with passenger consciousness, because I don't know how much of this, the prescribed ways of being a reflector laid out there are really helping people, because again, it's just not my experience. But the thing is, I know is true, is that becoming a witness to your life is what human design is all about. And that's for all of us. Okay. And that we really are, I mean, not only are, we make this initial break of these four different aura types, how the projector is, penetrating and absorbing, and how the generator is attracting and enveloping, in order to give its life force to something, manifestor bringing impact, and reflector, basically having this the most resilient aura and reflecting things, and they're sliding off and they're just tasting little pieces. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, we just do this little breakdown because we got to start somewhere. And even before this four breakdown, remember, I would break you between emotional and non-emotional. That's next Saturday's show. Feel free to come. Yeah, I mean, one of the past Jedi's, or past Jedi students, current Jedi in form, shared last week is, we got 8 billion people on the planet. We're having 8 billion different experiences. And to try to quantify this, especially in the face of human design, like, I mean, it would be bad enough without human design. And here we have this code of this incredible differentiation. And then people trying to say, no, this is how it is, or this is how it works. It's like, look, just be careful with that. I already took a question before class that was, it's like, yeah, there's some truth to that, and I can see where it could be true, and I can also see where it could be a trap, guys. So look, figure it out for yourself. It's the only thing you're going to hear here. So, reflector, no definition. And I like the disco ball, that disco inferno, right? We're going all over the place. We're going to the 70s. We're going to the prehistoric man. We're going to go to the cosmos. Hey, just hang in there, man. We're going to have some fun with these people, But I mean, really, you know, the my main interpretation of why I can't, even the manifester has fixed life force. I think I shared a bit of this last week. So I can do what I do to people. I can reach out and grab them by the throat and hold them there in space and continually point them back to what's them. That's the way I work, guys. That is the way this projector works. And then, the reflector's like, whoa, whoa. It's like trying to grab a greasy pig, dude. It's like, are you kidding? And then 6 hours later, they've changed. And it's like, oh, shit, man. I mean, there's nothing. So, at the same time that this is deeply my perspective and only sharing things with you that, may be of use to reflectors out there in the world, really wanting you to empower you to understand that, hey, there is no big job for you to be doing to really encourage you to have your life. Get into some of this this experiment stuff that I'm going to lay out if and when it works for you. But I mean, if there's any type that should just go have its life, I mean, it seems like it would be the reflector. You're not here to bring any major there's no big agenda for you guys right now, at least, And as I said, reflectors really resonated at a time when, being in tune with the movement of nature, you go back to prehistoric man, what was the five-centered prehistoric human? Just by math, you're going to end up in, again, I'm not an expert on all of this and not pretending to be, but one, the humans in general lived in greater harmony with nature. I mean, they had to move with the seasons, they had to move with the food supplies. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle is much more what I would assume a natural state for a reflector would be. Not that in this modern age that you're hunting and gathering, but it's just this, moved by nature thing. And then, again, just recognize that almost all mammals are reflectors. So you're going to get to meet my cat in a second. I mean, that's well, maybe live, but definitely we've got to. I mean, dude. So you look at mammals on the plains and how they blend into their environments and how animals blend into their environments. Guys, you're looking at that. There's reflectors. There's a bunch of them. Just watch how they deal with life. And you'll see it was much more like in tune with like the prehistoric man. Now, did I say John said reflectors are animals? No, he didn't. He said we're cavemen. Well, you may be. It may give you a much better sense of what the hell's going on and why this world would seem so confusing, because this seven-centered world that we're living in is deeply strategic, mentally driven, based on all sorts of bonds and agreements, and trying to basically force fuck our will onto nature. So maybe being a cat or a prehistoric nomadic human as an archetype, maybe that would help you kind of go, okay, wait a second. I'm just here to be passive. It really doesn't matter what I learn or don't learn about human design. I'm just here for passenger consciousness, and I have a life. I mean, obviously, you're informed, You just have no fixed definition. So the reflector aura samples or tastes the other, And I would, and when we found this picture, I really laughed because, I mean, I would feel like that's exactly like a reflector. It's like, what kind of humans are these? What are these humans, I mean, the only better is if maybe he was licking her, But they're, sampling, and the human also going, what is this thing? And, I deal with this myself as a projector anyway, but as I can really imagine what the reflector must feel like. that the reflectors are in relationship to the program itself. And this is what I'm saying. Like, you look at the way man used to live before we became mentally strategic about our lives. You look at the way the animal kingdom is working, and the way they have to move, and I mean, like, I can't remember I forget the bird. I'm just having a blank, but there's a bird that flies from I mean, it basically stumbles around after birth, takes off once, and doesn't land for like a year, and it takes some huge. I'm just blanking on the names of them. They come to Hawaii to nest and so forth, and you see these huge migratory patterns of animals that scientists are just starting to get. It's like, no, dude, it's like, I mean, there's some force that isn't them moving them. And this is that's what I would think. I would, to be the ghost in the machine. I mean, really seems like the reflector trip. It's like, oh, what is this thing doing? Because you're not here to bring some big influence to the planet, but you are deeply influenced by it. But your aura does protect you. I mean, this is what I get, more than anything, is like, yeah, there is something that just slides off of you guys. And I think I shared this before class. I mean, you could really start to think of it as a pathless path. I mean, there is nothing really for you guys to do. That whatever that the program, life itself. Let's forget for a second that we actually can code that program and track that program. That's true. We'll get there in a second. But let's just, look at the animal kingdom and see how they naturally move by some unspoken force. I assume that the reflector is going to be pretty tuned to that. Now, yes, we have humans, and there's some things that we can talk about how that might work in the human domain, but just again to give you perspective, right? It's like, okay, wow, these are trippy characters, and yeah, I don't know quite where to get into the. There's some points. I'm not sure where to make them. Okay, so yeah, it's a human design class. I gotta give you the information. Okay, shit. I can't just be John's trip on what he's tripping out on this afternoon about reflectors. So, most of you probably understand this. Basically, reflector has no fixed definition in their chart. And that's why they, again, I assume in addition to them having this super resilient aura, it also makes, I can't grab them the way I can other people, because what I hone in on is the fixed life force. And so these people are potentially changing definition from generator to manifestor to projector, back to reflector. They're never not a reflector as the moon transits throughout the day. And the moon changes hexagrams up to 3 times a day. Now, I used to encourage people to do this a lot when I first started, because I didn't know what the hell else to tell them to do. It's like, get your chart, make 64 copies, and get your little moon program and track it, and just keep flipping through the days. There's things called ephemerises that you can get, either through human design, or actually I've heard some of the astrological ones, or at least more consistently available. I don't even think these are available in America anymore or something. It was just too much work, I guess. But and I don't mean that. So anyway, they're ephemerises. They show the times that the program is changing, and this was like the original thing. Get your chart, put it in a binder, 64 copies, track the moon. Take like a highlighter and maybe track it, and that does make sense to me, because you can see that reflectors do have things to bring. They do. They're just bringing different things at different times of the month, and what's really trippy about this is being a martial artist, where you learned like long forms of this move goes to that move, goes to this move, into this punch, to that kick, or probably many of you are, maybe an easier analogy is like a musician learning to play a song. I get it. I mean, there's a part of me that gets it. It's like, okay, this little trip is happening. Now, how much time you spend tripping out on that, that's up to you. But again, just another way to look at this, and again, this is clearly from John's madness, is if we could take a month of the reflector and we could just compress it into one day, it would sort of, and didn't I remember that Ross said something similar to this too. Maybe sort of be like a regular human life. Like in a way, it seems like you guys are stretched over time too. Like you're operating at a bandwidth that is not even part of this whole other thing that is going on. And for the manifester, in a way, he's out of that as well. In a much deeper relationship with the program. So, I've heard that that after a month or so, the answer is just there. Okay. Well, that can make sense to me at one level, but you're talking to someone that can't remember what happened yesterday. So again, I'd look to nature and the cosmos. I would not look to humanity unless you go back to the prehistoric man for any archetype or any major thing that you can grab onto. Look at the way the planets are wheeling through the sky. The whole thing is moving, or the way the animals are moving. It seems a much more reliable starting point for you guys. And yeah, and I still do have a projector friend that will help reflectors do this. I mean, they're very into the program, and they'll help you do this if it's your trip, because it's kind of trippy when you first get started. And I think everyone here kind of gets that, And here we go with the recommendations. Dude, it's like somebody says something somewhere in human design and it becomes they need to spend at least a month alone, or they need to spend a year going over their program, or they have to be initiated by people that have GE Center. Dude, I lived in a hut for 3 to 5 years with almost no human contact other than maybe an hour or so total, and most of that spent surfing where there wasn't, actually, interacting with humans. It was 3 to 5 years figuring out what a projector was, because nobody knew then. I'm not sure anybody knows now either, but anyway, just to figure that out for myself. I still live alone. I sleep alone. I have almost, other than a little bit of time at the coffee shop. And I was going to say, even in that time, I was surfing in the morning, and there'd be a little conversation when I got out of the car and when I was getting back in the car with the other guys that were surfing. But, when you're out in the water, you don't really talk. It's very, it's more solemn, than that. So, is it a year you need to follow this thing? Do you need to follow it at all? Is it going to help you or just confuse you more? Guys, I need you to tell me. Really, I need you to tell me. The only authority, reflector authority or whatever, teacher that's supposed to be some sort of, expert on being reflector that I've had the chance to interact with, everything they were saying to me sounded so mental that I couldn't get myself wrapped around it. They may have an incredible truth for you guys. And if I knew someone that I had some resonance with, reflector teacher, I would say, here, talk to this person. I just simply don't know that person. And that's for you guys to what? Go test and sample and see for yourselves, I think most reflector, at least I've heard some of the reflector teachers offer kind of a, they just call them like coaching sessions or something. They're basically just like little sessions. So, but guys, passenger consciousness, this is the thing that you can't get away from. Human design is not about all this information. Take what will work and help you, but remember that we're all going to the same place. And, this is a perfect place to share what I wanted to share. That I have a reflector friend, somebody kind of new in my life. I met them 6 or 8 months ago. I don't know. They seemed a little more batty then than they do now. But they were trying to figure out whether they were a projector or a reflector. And because the time was so close and the birth time wasn't accurate. And projectors, I want you to hear this because you're not going to like it. She watched for like 6 or 8 months. I mean, I just had the passenger consciousness talk, and she did whatever her other research is out there in the world. But she came back with, I'm pretty sure I'm not a projector because I don't whine like you little bitches. Like you projectors are like these whiny little bitches, and no, we're not. That's how I felt, and it was so true. And I can feel that there's a resilience there that most projectors don't have. We take shit in deeply, and we are little bitches at some level. So, I mean, it's one of those things where can they see? Yeah, I got an idea that they can probably get a pretty good hit on what's going on. So the reflector signature really, you'll hear it said as surprise, okay, surprise. I personally like awe better. Like the few that I've met that actually had some sense of surprise or awe in their life, even though it might look a little Fruit Loopy to me, I admit it because it's just not me, dude. I'm like this militant thing. And, here's this kind of nomadic, way of living where they're just like, wow, everything's so incredible or whatever. And I think that what a cool ride, man. What a cool ride, and not with a lot of agenda or responsibility that you have to do something in this world. It does not mean you don't get to make your contribution. We all do. But honestly, this with another teacher I was talking to yesterday, she goes, look, this is all I tell them. Find your awe. Find your place in your awe. And I was like, dude, that's perfect. Let's make it simple. Find your place and find your awe, or more importantly, let it find you. Because you're not strategically trying to figure out your life with your mind. And that you really are taking the ride, that you relaxed in the vehicle. And yes, it's going to be quite confusing, I imagine. If my definition changed 3 times, I mean, Jesus Christ. It's like it's not bad enough already. I really liked, and this is I remember. See, even the lectures I like to on this type of stuff are old stuff. This is going back, early '90s or something, or late '90s. Whenever Ra was here in Sedona, that he said something like, if he could be any chart, if he could make up any chart, he would be a reflector with no gates. Absolutely nothing defined. So it was absolutely just an expression of the program. He was doing his version of tripping out. This is where we can see when he says stuff like that, it sticks. Like that compression into the day. I was like, that sticks. You were tripping. I liked it when he was tripping out. But anyway, that I could see that just to be an expression of the program itself. And again, guys, you do have accents, that any sense of you guys being in a normal life or a normal way of looking, this theme of disappointment, disappointment can also turn to an arrogance. It's just like, I know everything and you know nothing sort of a thing. I mean, that is this frequency I've heard it from reflectors. I've heard it a lot of people that have gone to reflector teachers. It's just like, wow, dude, it's just like they know and we don't or something. And then potentially that the truth of the matter is, yeah, but I don't see where anybody gets to tell anybody anything here. So when you look out there at the world and you see everybody just doing their trip and going through their little homogenized program, I bet it is killing you. I mean, I can resonate with the frequency of disappointment. And when someone's speaking about their trip, and the way I will get on my little arrogant trip about my trip, I can get that. I just don't know that if that can be extended to someone else. I'm not clear about that. I don't. Maybe some people need that. But that's sort of the old style of teaching where somebody knew better than you, which is the antithesis of what we're trying to. It's at least the antithesis of what I'm trying to teach you guys. I mean, I am clear that nobody knows shit. They may have it done. They may understand for themselves. They may get it for themselves. I may sort of get my trip for me, even though my trip is very much about other people. But dude, nobody knows shit. It's really funny, I mean, it's here. So we go to my next great teacher. As I shared with you, most mammals are reflectors, and your cat or your dog. I mean, how many people go, oh, your dog is just like you? I mean, that is something that almost everybody can resonate with. And, um, you know, when I was in Hawaii, my cat Jaya literally would not, I mean, dude, he wouldn't come in there. It wasn't much of a house anyway. It was a little shack, a tin roof, and it didn't even have windows, okay? But he basically wouldn't come in. I mean, he was like an outdoor, I'm a wild cat. He hunted wild game, chickens and lizards, and he wouldn't eat anything out of a can. We would get tuna, and he wouldn't eat it, okay? And, dude, when we moved to Sedona, dude, I brought because, 3 cats had showed up in my yard. They're wild cats. 2 of them gone immediately. I mean, just take it out, the dumb ones. This one stuck his nose out the door one time and was like, dude, there's actually things here that can eat me. He is now firmly a house cat. And dude, just to see that, like, oh my God, how did you change that much? But this is my big reflector teacher, and I tried to show him a picture earlier today. He just wasn't having it. I tried to show him this picture because sometimes he comes and jumps on the table with me, But I would really say, guys, just to go live your life, of course, human design is a great thing to know about and stuff, but again, passenger consciousness, that's where it's all going. This frequency in your body, whether or not, you actually have to be initiated by other people, or is it really the forces that do it, and they just come through there's so many variables here that, and what is clear is that, there is no, you hear the perfect judges for the world and all of this kind of stuff. It's like, well, it ain't happening right now. I don't see any reflectors being consulted on what should be good for our society. And the only, I did have one really interesting experience with this reflector guy that was like out of his fucking mind. I mean, he was going so fast, and I was like, that's trippy. I mean, he was like, he'd been on Kauai for like 2 days, and he wanted to buy a semi and open up a roaming rum bar. I was like, dude, do you have any idea? One bar. Yeah, it was going to be a rum bar with like a roaming discotheque, big. I guess they do this in Europe. They just pull in somewhere and send out a text message and start a party. I mean, and I'm like, dude, this is a little island in the Pacific, and this is not. I mean, anyway, he and it was like he wanted to do this, and all this stuff, and I was like, and I was sitting with him, and it was really when I was learning my frequency, and I was just sitting on the beach next to him. I mean, I was trying to listen, I wasn't really, because I was just going too fast, but I felt this calmness coming back, and I was like, wow, that's trippy that his frequency could be so calm, and he's so fucking out of his mind. And then I realized, oh shit, that's my frequency. I actually felt it. I was like, oh, there's a reflection. Oh, that's trippy. I can actually feel the calmness of my reflection, or my aura coming back in a way. Not the penetrating going into someone thing that the projector does, and not just my own, whatever body content, but it was almost like I could feel this calm energy coming back to me, while over here there was a tornado. I mean, it was literally like they got, and I was like, where is this calmness coming from? And I just sat with it. I was like, fuck, I guess that's your frequency. So anyway, I don't know how I got up on that. Okay, my cat, my great reflector teacher. Didn't you have something funny about him?
More about that if the animals reflect their owners,
right?
and I'm not delighted with my cat.
Right. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
No.
Well, every now and then a mammal does have definition. And if you have a, Joan definitely does not like to consider the possibility that her cat may be a reflection of her. I'm not sure. I'm not. I'm going to invoke my right to remain silent. Because, yeah, you don't like her. She doesn't like you.
Yeah. I mean, I like her sometimes.
Right. I think she likes you sometimes.
Exactly. Well, she likes me a lot more than I like her.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, who knows?
That's okay. And yet she's still in my home. So I mean, this might be just mental chatter.
Yeah. And dude, I don't mean if you have a bad pet that something's off in you, but I mean if you saw the animals that I have owned, you'd be like, dude, that's John. It's totally John's animal. This is one thing. I mean, guys, I love this. I mean, dude, to give a reflector this awe and location. Be in awe about your location, and really, what is that in a global pattern? Again, there may be a huge migration in your future, but that is one thing I do see is place, and then you may read somewhere that reflectors have to be initiated into the right place with someone that has a defined G, and oh my God, how far down the rabbit hole are we going here? I mean, like the whole thing that G projectors should do what they love. Okay, who's doing the loving, and how would the hell would a reflector in the real world know this person has a defined G, they don't have it? I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know what to do with all that, guys. So I took it out of the presentation. I share it with you because it's out there. Okay, you do what you want with all that. I do see that being in the right environment is really healthy for these people, and to allow them to be in those, and I leave them alone too. I mean, it's not like I got this whole, I need to be initiated by, even the projectors. Like, well, then, I don't initiate, so we're going to have a problem. At the same time, when they come towards me, it feels weird. If they're needy, if they call me and need my help, it's no problem. It's not different than any other type in the way they come to me. If they're coming to me for me, I have no problem with a reflector coming for me. It's only when they're coming to put their trip on me, which is unfortunately some of what I've met out there. And then I do think it would be a fun ride, to have this many different faces. I mean, so potentially, yeah. And we're only talking about the moon transits, much less all of the other transits. They could be so deeply wise about all this energy and all these, to have these different experiences and see, reflections of their own energy brought into the world by, again, what? Being a passenger and being okay with this always shifting. I mean, before class, somebody said something like, oh, I heard reflectors don't have a self. Well, no, I mean, if we're talking, when you really talk about the self, I'm saying that has to do with the magnetic monopole. You do have a life, and you're held together in the illusion of your separateness, and at that level, everybody has a self. Now, does everybody have a defined G center? Is that identity, being, transmitted out into the world as my identity as a heretic is always transmitted? I mean, that's my identity. I'm a fucking heretic. I mean, wouldn't take long, wouldn't take much research to verify that one. Remember that the world reserves its most cruel punishment for the heretic. and that really that you get out of this human world as much as you can, and let the program itself be the teacher, and whether or not that's you just sitting in stillness and watching the this and that, the right and wrong of humanity from the mental plane how deeply entrenched people get with their mental perspectives on this is how it is, or that's the way it should be, or whatever their fucking trip is, right? Just to be able to sit. Well, I sit in judgment of it. You don't have to. I admit it, dude. My whole body sits in judgment of that. But that you really get to see that how humanity is caught up in all of this programming and stuff, and that if the code of human design helps you become more and more aware of that, if you can identify with being watching the transits, and you can really feel those movements in your body. Just like our reflector this year is also into martial arts. I mean, what a perfect thing. And that's she even says my one reflector for the year, like my token manifester, my token reflector. It's like they do come, but just not many. And I don't mean that I just mean that there's not that many of them that come. It's just like human design is not the most important thing this year for me. Karate is. I'm like, fuck yeah. It wasn't like I was trying to get everyone to agree with me. I was trying to get rid of the dead weight before we got started. It didn't work. I still have to feed some people to the sharks. All right. Am I missing the program? Guys, and I really do think it's like this, is that if you're going to get into watching that program and being part of that movement in space, how that works for you, etc., that after a while that you're going to have to let go of it. Just like almost like Cypress, what's his name in The Matrix? The guy that's watching the code, I think it's Cypress, the guy that ends up being the traitor in terms. Damn, I haven't watched The Matrix. I need to watch The Matrix. It's my homework assignment for the rest of the class too. Watch The Matrix. Anyway, he's watching the code, and he's like, I don't even see the code anymore. I just see red one, blue one, black one. Is my video frozen over there for you?
No.
Okay, good. It's just for me. Okay, good. Because this is a really important slide. Guys.
Okay, hang on.
So, anyway, guys, and we saw this picture, and we had to use it because I imagine this would be exactly how you guys feel. It's like, this whole thing about reflectors needing to be initiated by the other. Okay, what the fuck are they coming for? I mean, I get it in one sense. Yeah, I totally get it, guys. I do get it. It's like, but I mean, I would think like, here you are like this natural cosmic being, however you want to see that, from prehistoric man to the cosmos, nature and cosmos. And these humans, they all want something. They've got mental agendas. They've got things that they want. They're living in a world that is so not your world. And I don't think you guys are really wired for it. So, yeah, I think it would be a very strange thing to have people coming at me. And as I was sharing before, and because of the little techno problem, maybe, I'm going to end up saying the same thing twice. But this whole idea of initiating, I have no problem with reflectors asking me to do what I do with them. None. But in the world of them physically moving at me and so forth, that, especially, I have a few, I mean, they can end up being And this, just like projectors are whiny, reflectors can be these incredible energy drains. It's just like they just keep wanting stuff and wanting stuff and wanting stuff. And, at one level I get it because they maybe are deeply confused, but it puts me in an awkward position with some of them that are in my lives that are like that. So just know that it's like you guys can, in a way, be an energy vacuum too. Just like the projector gets a bad rap of being, sucking off the energy. That there is some of that also happens. Seems to happen with the reflector as well, at least in my life. And then I bet this life is difficult and confusing to you, and that to know that is okay. That is your trip. That's your trip. And if that's your trip, who's going to argue with your trip? No one over here. Yeah. So now this is something that I know is definitely true for projectors, and I've heard that it's true for reflectors as well. It makes sense to me. Okay. When making these bigger decisions, when you're taking your 28 days to let this whole moon cycle run through you, when you're performing your music or you're going through your martial arts form, having people that you're just talking with and listening to at different places in your process. Guys, that's helpful. I see that's helpful. Now, here's the problem. That could so easily become mental. I was interviewed to see if I could be. Everyone around here was interviewed to see if they could be the person that this person a reflector talked to. And of course I didn't make the cut, and the only person that did ended up not doing it. But it's like that in itself seems mental. It's like it's like I need someone to talk to now. Again, guys, I say just live your life. The person you're talking to might be the person at the coffee shop that happens to sit down and say, is this seat taken? No? Okay. Yeah, the signal strength is dropping in and out
Oh,
again.
it did.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. Maybe just pop up. Yeah,
What to do?
I would pause the recording first.